Collective, in association with Everyday People, is holding its third annual Birthing, Education, and Healing Justice Summit in North Charleston. Today, I talk one-on-one with the two organizers of the event, Adrienne Frazier and Treva Williams, with the two organizations for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Adrienne Frazier and Treva Williams, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Needless to say, I'm bringing you on, obviously, because you two ladies are involved with very popular nonprofit organizations here in the Low Country. And I know that B Collective, in collaboration with Everyday People, has announced its third annual Just-Us INDABA Birthing, Education, and Healing Justice Summit, which is coming up this weekend in North Charleston. And for those people who don't know, the B Collective mission is obviously in relation to beloved early education and care, is to ensure that every child enters kindergarten socially and emotionally ready to learn, that every pregnant person, parent, and early educator has positive well-being and the tools to navigate maternal issues here in life. So tell me, ladies, what's new, what's now with this particular summer?
Yeah, so just as you shared, Quintin, our annual Just-Us INDABA is designed to be a day of learning, reflection, and community action. The word Indaba is a Zulu word meaning gathering for important matters. And so for us, this is really a summit and a community action lab where we are calling parents, caregivers, birth workers, community activists and organizers, our faith community, educators, to come together to really share wisdom and co-design solutions to the ongoing maternal health and educational crisis that we're facing in South Carolina. And there are intersecting issues that we're partnering with Everyday People to uplift because we know those issues impact our children, families, and educators as well.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, I failed to mention, and I buried the lead, but Ms. Frazier, obviously, you're the co-founder of B Collective. And of course, Ms. Williams is a part of Everyday People. But Ms. Williams, let me ask you this. What is the state of maternal health here in South Carolina?
What is the state of maternal health? The state is it's poor, to say the least. It's actually kind of shocking and scary when you think where South Carolina ranks. Adrienne probably knows this better than me, but it's toward the bottom when it comes to maternal health. And when you look at what we're facing as a country with regard to cuts to support systems that provide a lot of support to families, we can't anticipate that maternal health is going to get better with the cuts to support systems. So, the community is needed more than ever to come up with solutions together.
Ms. Frazier, what are those solutions in this era?
Well, I think that's really what we want the community to give us feedback on. We are eighth in the nation in terms of the maternal health crisis. That's number one. South Carolina also leads the state and it leads the nation in preschool expulsion, which disproportionately affects children of color and children with disabilities. So we believe that by bringing the most impacted and affected families and caregivers and educators together, we can not only name those challenges, but talk about how we can identify the solutions. And we know that implicit bias is one of the key issues that young children face in early childhood classrooms. But we also know our educators need support, and very often our classroom sizes, teacher-child ratios are too high. And then we know our families also need support as well. And so we're looking to host a space where people feel safe to hear some of the data that exist and these disparities, and also to hear from Dr. Patton, who is our keynote speaker and an expert on this issue.
Well, Ms. Frazier, take me inside the classroom. What is the ideal early childhood education right now as far as curriculum?
Well, we believe that curriculum should be based on it should be culturally responsive, right, to the children who are being served. And so that means the curriculum is going to affirm their identity, their family unit or system, their language, home language, and as well as meet children where they are developmentally. And so that means, providing assessments that are culturally responsive and designed based on developmentally, appropriate milestones.
In this era, Ms. Williams, what have been those milestones when it comes to those culturally responsive assessments?
What have been the milestones?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you talking about milestones that we've actually met or
Yeah.
that we're aiming toward?
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Adrienne answer that question.
Okay.
Because when it comes to milestones met, we have a ways to go.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So social justice milestones are probably, Treva's area of expertise. But in terms of developmental
Sure.
milestones for children, it's very individual, Quintin. It's really based, children learn at different developmental rates. Some children may learn to walk at a different stage than others. Their speech may develop at different stages, but we tend to look at what the American Academy of Pediatrics says in terms of developmental milestones. And we also tell parents that it's very individualized, right? So understanding all of the things that may influence how a child is developing is really key. And we also make space for children who are neurodiverse, who may be gifted in certain areas and may need additional developmental supports in others.
Wow. Yeah, you're right about that. Absolutely. What resources do they need right now as far as those particular students?
That's what we want to hear during the Indaba.
Okay.
We really want parents and who have been affected by preschool pushout to come and share the kinds of resources that are needed. We need to hear from them. And very often parents are afraid to come forward because they feel like it's something that they've done to cause their child from being pushed out of preschool. When we do know that most of the research shows that it has very little to do with the child. It's related to implicit bias. And so we want to hear from parents this weekend about what the resources are needed. And similarly, we want to hear from educators about the resources that are needed to support them in the classrooms, because that's equally as important. And with those, once we have that information, then we can develop policy,
Sure.
right, and do advocacy around those issues.
Miss Williams, what are those other, for lack of a better word, hidden implicit biases that you see inside the classroom today?
Oh gosh, I mean, it can be everything from how a teacher reacts to a student's behavior, to I mean, really, who gets let out for recess at certain times, or really just how students are reacted to. Sometimes it's even in different educational opportunities given to students. Here in Charleston, I know when you get up into high school, you see less and less Black students in AP courses. Decisions are being made early on about who should be in those classes. So it is far-reaching from the earliest time a kid enters the classroom all the way through graduation.
Wow. Why is that in 2025?
I mean, I would say it's because we haven't dealt with the fact that, with the truth of the matter of that our country is built on white supremacy. And, that's, why everyday people came together, was to really raise awareness about white supremacy and to end it and push white supremacists and their ideology out of power. Because that's the root of all of this, is this mindset of where our country was developed, and the policies that came after all of this and that continue to be developed, that intentionally, unintentionally, it's why it's called implicit, right? We adopt policies that in the end negatively impact, lots of Black and brown students, and then, promote white students in different ways. And until we're willing to honestly have that conversation and recognize that this is what is happening, this is why we have the disparities we have. It'll be very difficult for us, to reduce and end those disparities. So I'm excited about Saturday, because I think there's an opportunity here for our community to come out and, to listen with open minds and hearts about that problem that is the foundation of our country, and give a chance to talk about, what is needed. And it's not just, we of course, obviously want all families out there, but even, families that look like me, white people, we can learn a lot by what's going to be taught on Saturday and what's going to be shared by Dr. Stacy Patton. So I think it is an opportunity for just a lot of learning and community engagement to happen.
Oh, absolutely. Ms. Frazier, when it comes to that conversation about what's going on as far as implicit bias in the AP courses, and as she mentioned, white supremacy, why not the conversation years ago? Why now?
She might be
It's
frozen.
frozen.
Yeah. I was like, she's been in that position for a while.
It's all good. Well, Ms. Williams, I'll pick it up with you. Why not the conversation years ago versus now?
I think we started to have this conversation as a country when, with all of the brutal police killings that have been always happening, but had been brought to light by people recording, and these things being seen with our own eyes. It was moving us in a direction of having some of these like real hard and needed conversations about why these things are allowed to happen in our country. And I mean, because of that, I think, I can't remember if it's Eddie Glaude who calls it, white backlash, but we've had this massive backlash, right? Where it's like we have now veered off of having those conversations to the point of where we've literally got states, including ours, that are trying to erase history and change curriculum. And Adrienne talked so much about culturally responsive curriculum, how kids need to see themselves in it. We're wanting to, cut out any history that tells the truth about our country. We're wanting to cut out, information in our curriculum about anything that might hint in our books about LGBTQ students. So we've really, really veered off course from a direction that we were heading that seemed to be some places willing to start reckoning with the truth about what our country was built upon.
And Ms. Frazier, when you think of curriculum right now, what should be added to that curriculum? Oh, I think she's frozen again.
I don't know. I wonder where she is. Her internet's usually not this bad.
Well, Ms. Williams, we could talk about that as well.
Yeah. So you're asking what should be added to the curriculum?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I mean, I think Adrienne mentioned some of that, right? That kids need to see themselves in the curriculum. It needs to include a wide, diverse cultural representation, which right now, our curriculum doesn't. So that is a big part of it is kids being able to see themselves in the curriculum. I'm afraid that we're going to move into a direction that it is even less diverse than it currently is, and on top of that, doesn't tell the truth.
And I think she's muted too. I'm not too sure. But Ms. Williams, let me ask you until we can get Ms. Frazier back on. What are those other trends that you all are seeing that you see that will actually become a problem next as far as curriculum?
Well, I think Adrienne, you want to take that one with regard to problems that we see of what's next in curriculum?
Well, I think a very easy example of that is the banned books that we're seeing in our classrooms. And actually, that begins in the early childhood setting. Books that reflect culture and value systems or religions of certain families or different family structures are being banned. And I believe South Carolina is pretty high ranking in the number of books that are banned. And so we know that that is one of the issues around curriculum. Also, how we're responding to behavior, and discipline. That's a big one because we know that, for example, when young children are pushed out of a classroom, it increases the likelihood of them being put on the cradle to prison pipeline. And so we have the opportunity to really disrupt that by having curriculum that is rich in children's identity as well as a true history of the communities in which they live.
That's my next question. What is the state of these communities today?
That may be that may be a Treva question too, but
Okay,
I know
okay.
certainly,
Yes, ma'am.
for us, we start during the perinatal period
Sure.
when people are pregnant with children, with babies, and we know that because of the poor maternal health outcomes, those are caused by healthcare bias, right? And the fact that so many pregnant people are not getting the care and the respect that they need to be getting in our hospitals and medical institutions. And so part of what we are working on as a community is equipping families to be healthcare advocates, right, for their loved ones and giving the tools and the training to do that, as well as working with healthcare providers to educate on the impact, again, of bias in the healthcare system, acknowledging that it exists and that it results in poor outcomes, especially in rural communities and for Black and Brown people.
That's what I was getting at.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to head down to. But I'm sitting not only probably 3 or 4 blocks from the medical district here in Charleston, but because of COVID and what transpired through that particular time, as everyone knows, what has been exposed when it comes to healthcare bias?
I think a lot's been exposed. I mean, I think a lot's been exposed with regard to the type of care, the care that's available, who gets what kind of care. I have friends who rely on systems of the government that through I can't ever remember if it's Medicaid or Medicare, but they receive a very different experience at the doctor than what I do. They are not taken as seriously. They lots of times do not receive the type of inquiries into their health conditions. Um, you know, uh, my perception is that attitudes of like, well, that's a costly test, so we're not gonna actually do that one. Which that one could reveal like what the actual problem is with their health. And so I heard a lot of these stories, over the years from friends and family, about that inadequate and unfair, experience, in hospital medical care. And so I think, COVID exposed a lot of that. I think, but we're seeing an increase, with people's medical bills going up, grocery bills going up, all of housing bills going up. some of the first places that, we look to cut is in our own health sometimes. And, being unable to, make ends meet elsewhere. We got to put, food on the table for our families. And so I think, we're just seeing a massive, I want to say crack, but honestly, it's an intentional bashing to our support systems here. And so I think we're going to just see more and more, different ways that, Black and brown people are treated in this system to what white people are treated.
Where is the support system, Miss Frazier? Where is it? Oh, I think she's frozen again.
I don't know what's going on. Um,
It's
yeah.
all good, no worries. Has it always been this way, or is it because of, or was it created because of COVID?
Oh no, I think it's always been this way. I think it
Yeah.
it goes back to, the foundation of our country and who's prioritized in this country over others. If you're not a consumer, or you're not a laborer, or you you can't hold up this capitalistic structure, then you are deemed less than and not as a priority to the system. And so, I think it's always been here. I think it would be, I'm hopeful that more people are waking up to it with
Okay.
what we're facing now. We're about to head into a time where these SNAP benefits get cut that provide a massive safety net for so many families for food. And I think this is, from my understanding, money that our tax dollars have already paid for, that they're going to refuse to release to families. And this is coming on the backs of workers, disabled people, the poor, and in order to benefit the rich, and continue to give the rich tax breaks. And so I think we're just going to continue to see the massive disparities within all of our systems, whether it's school-based systems, healthcare-based systems, and until everyday people decide to rise up together. And that's one of the things with our organization, is we're pushing for an economic fast every Friday, just to reteach ourselves how to act collectively together, and to withhold our money, because everyday people in this country really do have the power, if we act in solidarity and in step with one another, to really take control and take power back from this country.
And so, Ms. Williams, when it comes to this summit that's coming up Saturday, can you give us once again who, what, when, where, and how?
Yeah, so Saturday, registrations at 9 a.m. in the morning at Charleston Atlantic Presbytery office, which is just off of Park Circle, 4701 Park Place, I think it is, West. Free parking, going to be great food on the day, some lovely drumming, and some sound bath. And then we have Dr. Stacy Patton, who's going to be our keynote speaker, who's a phenomenal professor at Howard University and author, who really has a really rich and powerful view of a combination of things: early childhood education, Black children, Black families, white supremacy. She's in all of that, and really looking forward to her keynotes on Saturday. The event ends at 4, and it sounds like a long day, 9 to 4, but I've seen the run of show, and it's a beautiful run of show that includes blessing of the babies. So we want to see families bring their little ones to get blessed by some of the clergy from our community. So yeah, it's going to be a really beautiful day.
Oh man! And so, moving forward past the summit, Ms. Frazier, how can people get in contact with you and Ms. Williams about getting involved with Be Collective and Everyday People?
So the website for the Be Collective is www.becollective.co. That's the easiest way to reach out to us and make an inquiry. We would love to have people follow us on our social media, where we post ongoing updates of programs and opportunities for families and educators to come into coalition with us.
Oh, that is great to hear. That is really, really great to hear. And my apologies to the viewers for the technical difficulties. You know how the technology goes
Sorry,
around.
weird
Oh,
on my end.
oh
Yeah.
no, it's all good. It's all good.
And Quentin, if I could
Yes,
just
ma'am.
add,
Yes, ma'am.
people can go to our website as well, everydaypeoplefast.com,
Sure.
and can sign up for the newsletter there to get involved in that way. We just really want to encourage more people to participate in the economic fast on Fridays and hold our dollars collectively as people. And there's a lot of we do monthly potluck together over some of these big issues that the core of why these problems exist is white supremacy, and so we do some educating around some of those events as well. So yeah, we'd love to get have people get involved, and hope everybody comes out on Saturday.
Oh yes, we'll hopefully they'll come out and get informed about what's going on around them. Well, Treva Williams and of course Adrienne Frazier with Be Collective and Everyday People. Thank you for your time again. Welcome to Quintin's Close Ups.
Thank you, Quentin.
Thank you, Quentin.
Oh, you're welcome.